Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradari Yasodhanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Sadhana Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradari Why not? No, you just read it. Govardhana Vallabha Girivaradari Yasodhanandana Braja Janaranjana Yasodhanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Vishapad Paramahamsa Parivirajakacharya Asatara Satahitavanga Shila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Gauri Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Govardhana Ki Jai Shri Shri Krishna Balaram Giraj Nrsingadev Ki Jai Shri Shri Gaurnitai Ki Jai Nitya Gaura Premanandi Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So Hare Krishna, everyone. Right, so Welcome to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. We are reading from the third canto, chapter 23, entitled Devahuti's Lamentation. So today we're going to be covering 3 verses in the Srimad Bhagavatam. First we're going to be doing text 35. I will just chant that one myself. And in that text we're going to be hearing about Devahuti's personal experiences at this juncture at which she is being transformed to her earlier beauty, right, in this pastime that we've been hearing. Then in text 36-37, which you will all chant with me, we're going to hear about Kardama Muni's experience in response to Devahuti's transformation and how he is perceiving her at that time. And then just at the end of my class, I am going to be speaking a little bit about Shyamananda Prabhu, right? One of our Vaishnava saints. It's his disappearance day today, so I'll just do that at the end of this class. So here we have text 35. So I'll just read the Sanskrit. Bharatu purashtadatmanam stri sahasra vritam tada nishamyata yogagatim samshayam pratyapadyata. Now, Sadhana, you have the microphone. Would you like to read the translation and purport, please? Do you see it up on the screen there?
She was amazed to find herself surrounded by 1,000 maids in the presence of her husband and to witness his yogic power.
And the purport?
Devahuti saw everything miraculously done, yet when brought before her husband, she could understand that it was all due to his great yogic mystic power. She understood that nothing was impossible for a yogi like Kardama Muni.
Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada. I'm just going to read the invocation prayers very quickly. Naranayam namaskritya naram chaiva naratamam devim sarasatim vyasam tato jayam udirayat nashta prayasvabhadreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavat uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki Om Mayati Mirandasya Ganandana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasma Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Tatanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahayam Dadati Swapadantikam. So also I humbly ask for the blessings of all the Vaishnava devotees that I may give a class that is pleasing to our lordships, to our Vaishnava Acharyas, to Srila Prabhupada, and to the assembled Vaishnavas and devotees. Okay, so thank you very much for reading out that translation and purport, sadhana. So, from this verse and purport, we can understand that Devahuti, let me have a look where we are. Yes, we're still on number 35 up there. Yep. We can understand that Devahuti has been somewhat taken by surprise at this stage, right, in the pastime. So the word amazed is used in the actual shloka, and in his purport, Srila Prabhupada uses the word miraculously, right? In other words, according to Devahuti's perceptions, these arrangements that were being made by her husband, they appear to be a miracle, right? Because we can understand that these sorts of arrangements were not ordinary arrangements made by the common man for his wife. So Devahuti actually has a realization about her husband, and this indicates that prior to these fantastic preparations that are being masterminded by Kardama Muni, she was not quite perceiving her husband as this very super excellent yogi that he actually is, right? So we have to remember that, Kardama Muni, he practiced mystic yoga for 10,000 years, right? Also, he engaged in devotional service, and he did this just to please the Supreme Lord. And also we know that Kardama Muni, he is manifest from Lord Brahma's shadow. And also we know that Lord Brahma had requested him to beget children. Right? So he was performing these austerities, in response to Lord Brahma's request. And of course we know the story when Lord Vishnu finally appeared there, when Kardama Muni was sitting performing his tapasya. Lord Vishnu was so touched, he was so happy with the efforts of Kardama Muni that Lord Vishnu shed tears of happiness, and those tears became the waters of Bindu Sarovara. So here we have a picture of Bindu Sarovara, and on the left there you see the map, that section in red. That's the state of Gujarat, so that's where Bindu Sarovara is situated. I believe it is a few hours' drive from Krishna's city of Dwarka. So, let's have a look now at other verses for today. Right, here we have Shloka 36 and 37, so we're going to be chanting this together. Okay, so please repeat. Satam kiritam malasnanam Vibrajantim apurvavat Atmano bibratim rupam Samvita ruchirastanim Vidyadare sahasrena Sevyamanam suvassasam Jata bhavo vimanam tad Arohayat amitrahan. Okay, I'll do it one more time. Satam kritam malasnanam Vibrajantim uparvavat Atmano vibratim rupam Samvita ruchirastanim Vidyadari sahasrena Savyamanam suvassasam Jatabhavo vimanam tad Arohayad amitrahan. So, excuse me, we might just have one of the men and one of the ladies, because we're going to run out of time otherwise. So would somebody from the men like to lead the chanting? Satam krita malasna Atmano bivratam rupam Samvita ruchirastanim Vidyadare sahasrena Sevyamanam suvassasam Satam krita malasnanam Purvavat Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Sadhana, can I bother you to bring me the Archaman cup, please? Okay, so we're going on to the synonyms. Just put it there. Just need to do it. Okay, thank you. So here we go, synonyms. Okay. Sa, the sage. Tam, her Devahuti. Kritamalasnanam, bathed clean. Vibrajantim, shining forth. Apurvavat, unprecedentally. Atmana, her own, Vibratim, possessing, Rupam, beauty, Samvita, girded, Ruchira, charming, Stanim, with breasts, Vidyadari, of Gandharva girls, Sahasrena, by 1,000, Sevyamanam, being waited upon, Suvasasam, dressed in excellent robes, Jatabhava, struck with fondness, Vimanam, airplane like a mansion, Tat, that, Arohayat, he put her on board, Amitrahan, O destroyer of the enemy. Okay, here we go to... Okay, so here's the translation. The sage could see that Devahuti had washed herself clean and was shining forth as though no longer his former wife. She had regained her own original beauty as the daughter of a prince. Dressed in excellent robes, her charming breasts duly girded, she was waited upon by 1,000 Gandharva girls. O destroyer of the enemy, his fondness for her grew, and he placed her on the aerial mansion. Right, translation, please repeat. The sage could see that Devahuti had washed herself clean and was shining forth as though no longer his former wife. She had regained her own original beauty as the daughter of a prince, dressed in excellent robes, her charming breasts duly girded. She was waited upon by 1,000 Gandharva girls. O destroyer of the enemy, his fondness for her grew, and he placed her on the aerial mansion. Jai. Okay, purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Before her marriage, when Devahuti was brought by her parents before the sage of Kardama, she was the perfectly beautiful princess, and Kardama Muni remembered her former beauty. But after her marriage, when she was engaged in the service of Kardama Muni, she neglected to care for her body like a princess. Since there was no means for such care, her husband was living in a cottage, and since she was always engaged in serving him, her royal beauty disappeared, and she became just like an ordinary maidservant. Now, after being bathed by the Gandharva girls by the order of Kardama Muni's yogic power, she regained her beauty, and Kardama Muni felt attracted to the beauty he had shown before the marriage. The real beauty of a young woman is her breasts. When Kardama Muni saw the breasts of his wife so nicely decorated, increasing her beauty many times, he was attracted even though he was a great sage. Sripad Shankaracharya has therefore warned the transcendentalists that one who is after transcendental realization should not be attracted by the raised breasts of a woman, because they are nothing but an interaction of fat and blood within the body. Jai Hare Krishna. Okay, so right. So as Srila Prabhupada has just been discussing in his purport, right, we need to remember that when Devahuti first arrived with her parents in the forest where Kardama Muni's ashram was, so that's the image to the left there, very nicely painted. She was a young and very beautiful woman. She had a very shapely body. She was gorgeously dressed. Her hair and her clothes would have been very nicely arranged by her maid servants. And due to her exquisite beauty at this time, yes, Kardama Muni had naturally been attracted to her. Right? But then for many years, actually, Devahuti served her husband in their simple forest cottage, which would have meant no royal opulences such as sleeping in silk beds, right? Or no royal feasts, no walking on soft carpets, no glamorous festivities and socializing, no traveling in royal carriages, sitting on soft cushions, and certainly no maidservants to respond to her every need and want. So all of these things Devahuti certainly would have been used to before she came to the forest. So now instead, she had to endure this very Spartan type of lifestyle that the sages, well, at least in that time, the sages had to endure a very Spartan and very rigorous, very austere lifestyle. So consequently, she had lost her charming and captivating appearance because she was serving Kardamamuni for years within this setting, and she became more or less like a very skinny forest dweller who doesn't actually have any access to material facility. This word skinny was actually mentioned, I think, in the last class that I gave on this pastime. So in their simple hermitage in the forest, Devahuti, yes, she was assisting her glorious husband, Kardamamuni, in performing, like when he was performing his religious practices, for his various spiritual goals, his goals of transcendence, his goals of pleasing the Supreme Lord. So she was assisting him in all that, and undoubtedly she would also have been carrying out all her wifely duties. And with that, of course, she would have had to bring upon herself, shall we say, very strict self-discipline and rigor and self-sacrifice that one must adopt when one is living this type of ascetic lifestyle. Right? So then, in our pastime now, where we're up to, all of a sudden, Kardamamuni, he's making these super excellent arrangements for her. He's bringing 1,000 Gandharva girls just to tend to his wife's bodily and personal needs. So the Gandharvas are our celestial musicians, the celestial singers. And of course also Kardamamuni at that time, he constructed this really fantastic aerial mansion. So then, yes, Devahuti could understand that, her husband is actually very, very powerful. Now in the second half of Srila Prabhupada's purport, he discusses that the real beauty of a young woman is her breasts, and how Sripad Shankaracharya has warned the transcendentalists that if they are aiming for self-realization, they should not be attracted by such bodily features of a young woman, because the material body, be it that of a young woman or any other living being, after all, it is simply an assembly of physical elements such as fat and blood and other substances. Now, we know that Srila Prabhupada, on a number of times, he has discussed that there are 3 different types of transcendentalists. Right? We have the Bhakta, the Yogi, and the Jnani. I think I put those around there the wrong way there. So, if a human being does not come into one of these categories, then generally they are considered a karmi. Right? A karmi is somebody who's just endeavoring towards their own enjoyment within the material world and just trying to get as much material facility for themselves and their loved ones without any acknowledgement of or connection with this, or conscious connection with the Supreme Lord. Right? So the Bhakta, he may be described as the first-class transcendentalist. Also, that is devotees. Right? So the Bhakta, yes, they have full realization, or at least they have realized the personality of the Supreme Lord, and they are serving him in that way. The second-class transcendentalist, the yogi, he may also be described as a meditator, and he has partially realized the plenary portion of the Supreme Lord, and that means that primarily he is realizing the Lord in his Paramatma feature, the feature of the Supersoul. And then the Jnani, the third class transcendentalists, so they are generally referred to as impersonalists, and they are described as barely being able to realize the energy of the Supreme Lord, right? The energy known as the Brahma Jyoti, and this means that the Jnani is directing Krishna, is perceiving Krishna indirectly rather than directly. Right? So the Jnani, he is one who is inquisitive about eternal life, but he is trying to relieve his own suffering within the material world by using his own material intellect, right, in order to find solutions to his many problems and suffering and so forth. The yogi, he understands that yes, there is a high spiritual nature, but he is trying to develop mystic powers and abilities so that he can organize for his own salvation from the material realm of life. That's the yogi. But the bhakta, of course, the bhakta does not strive for his own happiness or his own salvation, because he strives for Krishna's happiness. His only concern is to please the Supreme Lord. Right? He doesn't care about his own suffering so much, nor about his own liberation or happiness. Right? So, and ultimately, the ultimate goal for the bhakta, as it is for all living beings, is what we know as prema bhakti. This is the pure love. Sorry. Thank you, Tom. Yeah. So this is what we see in Vrindavan, in Sri Vrindavan Dham, the residents of Vrindavan, who are simply serving Krishna out of pure affection for him, pure love for him. So, but even though the efforts and the goals of these various transcendentalists differ, they can differ quite a lot if we look at the individual practitioner. Still, if any one of them becomes distracted by the attractive features of another person, or shall we say the attractive features of another person's body, right, who they perceive as somehow being a source of enjoyment for them, then all their painstaking efforts on their path towards transcendence, it can be lost. Right, very, very quickly. So this is the warning that is given at the end of Srila Prabhupada's purport. And we have, in our Vaishnava history, we have an example of this that I want to share. Some of you may know who it is. Vishvamitra Muni. Right, so Vishvamitra Muni, he is one of our sages. He appears in a number of pastimes. He's mainly affiliated with Treta Yuga. Right, he features in the pastime of Raja Harishchandra. He also features in the Ramayana. Right, so Vishvamitra was the one who gave many divya astras, celestial weapons, to Ram and Lakshman so that they could vanquish the demons of, I think it was Dandakaranya forest. Demons, all the demoniac personalities who were trying to take over the earth at that time. Right? And we also know that Vishvamitra actually was the one who sort of staged the scene for Ram to meet Sita, and also for their marriage later on. But before Vishvamitra came into the Ramayana, before that time, there is a famous sort of an aspect of him and his personality, and that was that he was actually born as a Kshatriya, but he wanted to be a Brahmana, right? So he set out to perform severe austerities and penances and tapasya, in order to please the Supreme Lord, so that he could be granted Brahmanhood. He actually wanted to become a Brahma Rishi, which I've heard is higher than a normal Brahmana. So, but what happened was, Vishvamitra was so successful in his severe tapasya, his meditation became so intense and so focused that he actually started to become very, very powerful. Right? He was somehow, he was just developing a lot of power through his austerities, to the point where Lord Indra, right, the king of the demigods, started to get concerned, that, oh gosh, he's becoming very, very powerful within the universe. And so Lord Indra and the demigods, they decided to try to break the focus, right? They wanted to disrupt Vishvamitra's focus just so that he would stop accumulating so much power. So, but Vishwamitra is not an asura. He is not a demon. He is a saintly person. But nevertheless, Lord Indra got concerned. So Lord Indra sent a very beautiful apsara by the name of Menaka. Right? So the apsaras, they are our celestial dancers. And Menaka was one very beautiful apsara. So Lord Indra sent Menaka, as you see in the image here. She sent Menaka to seduce Vishwamitra. And sure enough, she was successful. And the very minute that, in the very instance, it is said, the very instance that Vishwamitra broke his concentration, when Menaka came before him, at that point, all his many, many years of tapasya just dissipated at that point. And then, of course, he and Menaka, they ended up living together for a few years, and then they conceived a girl child by the name of Shakuntala. And Shakuntala is the mother of Bharat Maharaj, right? So this planet, or especially India, but sometimes we refer to the whole planet as Bharat Varsh, in other words, the land of Bharat. So it is from that Bharat that that this name is given. So Vishwamitra Muni, he's actually the grandfather of Bharat Maharaj. In any case, so this pastime demonstrates, that even the most advanced yogi, they can very quickly be overcome by sexual attraction for somebody who appears before them. And in that instance, yes, their spiritual focus can be lost, right? And actually, to me, I was thinking, it reminds me of a very poisonous snake. There are some snakes that are so poisonous that if you're bitten by them, you can die just within minutes. It can be that immediate, right? And this, of course, can be devastating. This losing one's focus on one's spiritual goals. Yes, it can be devastating for the transcendentalist, especially if they've been endeavoring on their path for many, many years. So this is the warning in the purport. Now, I also want to mention at this juncture that this teaching, this warning that is there in the purport, this is not relevant only for men. It is for women also. Right? Women who are transcendentalists can also easily become distracted from their path of penance and austerity if they start to contemplate the objects of the senses. As this is the teaching in the Bhagavad Gita. If they start thinking about indulging in something that they consider to be very attractive or very appealing, right? And we know that in Kali Yuga there is no shortage of material objects and material settings that are very stimulating to the material senses. Regardless of an individual's gender, regardless of their age, regardless of their social status, regardless of their occupation or their wealth or any other peculiarity, yes, they need to take great care to not be distracted from their path of penance if they are, a true transcendentalist, or if they are on a path of towards gaining self-realization and transcending the material realm. And also, just in response to Srila Prabhupada's purport, we're just going to return to this very basic teaching that we are reminded of the basics of the physical body, that yes, it is actually just a combination of gross material elements and substances. And actually, these substances are not very attractive. Right? Actually, there are no gross material elements or no parts of any gross material elements that can function on their own without the touch of spirit. They simply don't exist. Of course, setting aside Krishna, who can do anything, who can organize anything. But as shown in this image, right, the physical body, yes, it is simply layer upon layer of different organic substances such as bones and flesh and skin and hair and nails and everything else. So it's actually very foolish, especially for a transcendentalist, to become attracted by the physical body. And we know this very nice shloka in the Bhagavad Gita, Ishvara sarva bhutanam riddeshe junatishtati brahmayan sarva bhutani yantra rudani mayaya. So this word yantra, which means machine, it is a very good description of the material body which houses the spiritual soul. And we know that as soon as the spiritual soul leaves a particular body, that body is actually not considered beautiful or even pleasant anymore, right? Because as soon as the soul departs, the body starts to decompose, right? Most people find a body, a dead body, shall we say, unpleasant, and certainly unclean, right, for this reason. So, these are very basic teachings here. They are in the Bhagavad Gita, but awareness of these basic teachings and this constant reminder, which is, I think, is very relevant even for the advanced transcendentalist, awareness can prevent us from going astray, and losing our consciousness. So, this is relevant for us here. It's not just relevant for advanced yogis, like Vishwamitra. It's also relevant for the bhaktas and the bhaktins, because our consciousness is very impressionable. And, in Kali Yuga, the material energy is very, very strong, both on the gross material platform and on the subtle material platform. So, just... we would be wise to take heed of these warnings. Now, I want to quickly speak about, so His Holiness, His Grace, His Divine Grace, Srila Shyamananda Prabhu, right? So yes, it is Shyamananda Prabhu's disappearance today, the anniversary of his disappearance. So Shyamananda Prabhu, along with Srinivasacharya and Srila Narottam Das Thakur, so they are all eternal associates of Lord Chaitanya, right? And they appeared at the same, or around the same time as Lord Chaitanya, specifically for the purpose of helping to spread Lord Chaitanya's message throughout the world. And so they can be known as kind of the next generation after our 6 Goswamis, right? We discuss often our 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. And they are all disciples of Srila Jiva Goswami. So Srila Jiva Goswami was the youngest of the 6 Goswamis. Now, in the life of Shyamananda, right, so Shyamananda's father, I'm only going to speak for about 5 minutes on this. Shyamananda's father's name was Sri Krishna Mandal, right? And it is said that before Shyamananda was born, Sri Krishna Mandal had already fathered a number of children who had all died. They had all passed away, either at childbirth or in a very young age. So that by the time that Shyamananda Pandit was born, there was this kind of air of sort of misery in the family. So at that time, Shyamananda was named Dukhi. Dukhi means misery. And just sort of, this child was said to be very, very extraordinarily beautiful, and he was predicted to become a great personality. And soon in his youth, he met his first guru, who was Hridaya Chaitanya Das. Now, Hridaya Chaitanya Das, he gave Dukhi the name Krishna Das. So then, at that time, from that time on, Shyamananda was known as Dukhi Krishna Das. And at one point, Hridaya Chaitanya, he ordered Dukhi Krishna Das to travel to Sri Vrindavan Dham to meet Srila Jiva Goswami there and to serve him, and also to study the scriptures of the 6 Goswamis. Excuse me. So Dukhi Krishna Das traveled to Vrindavan, and yes, he was serving Srila Jiva Goswami, and one day, as he was doing his menial service, right, because the disciple does menial service for the guru, he found this absolutely brilliantly shining and beautiful ankle bell on the ground, right? Some of the descriptions say ankle bell, some of them say anklet, some say bangle, but I'll just say ankle bell. And Sadhuki Krishna, it is said that he was overcome with love of Godhead when he found this ankle bell. So he picked it up, and shortly thereafter, this exquisitely beautiful young gopi girl came there to that place, and she asked Dukhi Krishnadas, "Have you found this ornament?" And Dukhi Krishnadas said, "Yes." And now this beautiful young gopi girl was none other than Vishaka, right? One of Srimati Radharani's closest girlfriends. So then Vishaka said, "Well, my girlfriend would like to bestow a special benediction upon you, for finding this, or giving me this ankle bell, or having the ankle bell." So then Vishaka instructed Dukhi Krishnadas to bathe in the Kund at that place. So Dukhi Krishnadas immersed himself in the water, and when he came out, he had taken the form of a gopi, right? Because in order to have darshan, have personal darshan with Srimati Radharani, you have to be in a suitable form for that darshan. So then Vishaka brought Dukhi Krishnadas before Srimati Radharani, and Dukhi Krishnadas gave the ankle bell, and then Srimati Radharani put some kumkum on that ankle bell, and she stamped it to Dukhi Krishna's forehead as a sort of a special tilak, and she told him that from this day forward you will be known as Shyamananda Das. Now also at that time, Srimati Radharani gave Shyamananda a deity, right? And this deity is said to have manifested from Radharani's heart, right? And that deity is, of course, Sri Shyam Sundar, right? So anyway, after this happened, Srimati Radharani and Vishaka and the gopi girls, they just vanished. And Shyamananda, who was in total ecstasy, he raced back to Srila Jiva Goswami and told him what had happened. And Srila Jiva Goswami was just so ecstatically happy. So now after that time, Shyamananda Prabhu, he established Shri Radha Shyam Sundar temple in Vrindavan. Now this temple, it is counted amongst the 7 most important temples, shall we say, the ancient temples of Vrindavan, or from that time. And this temple is only 1 or 2 blocks from Loy Bazaar, right, if you all know where Loy Bazaar is. So here we have these beautiful deities, Shri Radha Shyam Sundar. And in the same temple complex, we have Shyamananda Pandit's Samadhi. Now, it is said that a lot of very prominent Vaishnava acharyas used to visit this temple and have darshan of this deity. Right? Personalities such as Srila Jiva Goswami. We also had Gopal Bhatta Goswami, Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, Lokanath Goswami, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. All of them would visit and take darshan of this deity. And we also hear that Baladeva Vidyabhushana Maharaj also spent a lot of time serving this particular deity in this temple. And also more in our recent years, we hear that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur would go and take darshan of this deity, and also our very own Srila Prabhupada. And I shall also put in a little personal pastime here. Yeah, when I was living in Vrindavan, I used to go and visit the 7 temples of the Goswamis, and for some reason, this particular deity of Krishna, I really felt a connection with him for some reason. I didn't know this background at the time, but when I came back to Australia, I printed of a photo of his face. I just kept it because I thought he was so incredibly sweet. So this is a very, very special deity, and I would highly recommend all of you, when you visit Vrindavan, to go and take darshan of this deity. And of course, we have our other temples established by the Goswamis. Here they are. Jai. So we have Shri Radha Madhana Mohan Temple, Radha Gokulananda Temple, Radha Raman Temple, Radha Govindaji Temple, Radha Gopinath Temple, Sri Radha Damodar Temple, where of course Srila Prabhupada has his 2 rooms, right? They are still preserved in the way that they were when Srila Prabhupada lived there. And then we have this Sri Radha Shamsundar Temple. Right. So that finishes my class for today. So I'm wondering if anyone has any questions either about, I wanted to very quickly show this book here. This is Prema Vilas, this book, if any of you can manage to read it, that this contains some of these pastimes by these 3 personalities, Sri Shamananda Prabhu, Srila Narottam Das Thakur, and Srinivasacharya. And I believe this is written by Nityananda Das, who is the son of can't quite remember. In any case, yeah, this is a very, very wonderful book. Communicating, demonstrating some of the pastimes of these very, very elevated Vaishnava personalities. So, would anyone like to make a comment or ask a question about today's class? Yes, Prabhu. Does someone have the...
Yeah, thanks for your class. It's just a comment that Vishwamita, after so many years of engaging in austerities, he achieved such a high level of yogic power. But when Menaka came, in a minute, it was all gone. But we know with Bhakti Yoga, that benefit of devotional service, you can never never lose it. So even in your next life, it carries on. So there's quite a difference with that.
That's a very good point. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Yeah, so Prabhu is saying that, and it's very true, this is the teaching that, if a bhakti yogi steps off his path of devotion, and goes into material life, then it is said that, yes, when he eventually returns to that path, he can pick up where he's left off. That's the comment that you're making. Yeah, thank you so much. It is a very good point. And so against that sort of point that you, not against, in respect to that point that you have made, that is 100, of course, 108% correct. I think the warning that that I would like to sort of carry through with, that is in the purport, is that one's focus can become, like one can become very disorientated if one loses one's focus from, being engaged fully, say with one's sadhana and one's seva. And then if one stops to contemplate the objects of the senses, that concentration can be lost, and it may be difficult. I mean, I know it myself because I experience it myself from time to time. If I've been going really well and doing everything properly, and then I find something interesting, and it's almost like a puzzle that kind of comes apart. It's the effect on the consciousness is that the pieces can sort of come undone. Yeah, so then there is something lost, and the endeavor then has to be made to come back to that point. But it is also just in response to your comment, it is also said in the same way that whatever one puts into one's spiritual bank account, that can never disappear. Whatever service one does, it does stay there. It can't actually be withdrawn by any other person. But it was the individual's focus and the concentration can be greatly disrupted. Yeah. Did you want to add further on this point? Yeah. Yes, sadhana.
Hare Krishna. I have a few questions. So my first question is, did you take those photos?
No, I didn't. I didn't take photos when I was so much when I was living in Vrindavan, because also I know that these photos are available, on the internet. But these are the.
And they're really good. My question is, you touched on it, you read about it, but I didn't quite grasp it. That how Devahuti tolerated.
See if you can get the microphone. Okay, so speak a little bit louder. Yeah. How did Devahuti tolerate this very harsh and strict, disciplined forest life coming from the background that she did? It's a very good question. My understanding is this, right? We read that Devahuti, over time, when she was living with her husband, she became a yoga lakshana, I think that's the word. That's somebody who's very advanced in yogic practices. So we also hear, we read about Devahuti's many good qualities. Everything that is in the Shastra to me indicates that Devahuti was a very intelligent and a very intelligent yogini in one sense, and that she possessed a lot of good qualities and characteristics. That's pretty much the profile that we're given of Devahuti. So my understanding would be that somebody who somebody of that caliber, shall we say, somebody who has who is a very advanced personality in their general understanding and wisdom, yes, they would be able to apply themselves to cope with all that. And also she was very loyal and dedicated to her husband, we know that. So that I would, without wanting to speculate, I would conclude that her dedication and devotion and loyalty to her husband would have driven her on also. But yes, she was, even before she came to Kardama Muni's ashram, she was, described as a very qualified person. So yeah, I think that would have, Yeah, was in the purport or in the shloka? Yeah, I think I may have just been discussing how, she would have had to give up all of those material luxuries and all of a sudden adopt a very strict forest life. So, this is, and, we know that Devahuti is the mother of Lord Kapila. So, Krishna would not sort of just have any woman as his mother. He would become the son of somebody who is very advanced. Also we hear about Mother Yashoda, and Devaki. These are not ordinary women. Certainly they are not, materially conditioned as other women are. They are very advanced personalities. Does that respond to your question? Yeah. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for the class, Padma Prabhu. It's a lovely class. Just speaking a little bit to Sadhana's comment there, a question. And also, you mentioned she was a great yogini, and she also had this great devotion to her husband, as you touched on. So I was just kind of trying to relate it to us. And I remember, we had such devotion to Srila, or we have, but there was such devotion to Srila Prabhupada in our younger years. And I was recalling what it was like in Mayapur, where we had absolutely no facility. 3/4 of the time we were starving. There was no heated water. There was no lights would go out for days at a time before we got the generator. Yeah. But we were all so enthusiastic and excited to do our service at great, physical cost.
Yeah.
But we didn't think about it. We were just doing that for Srila Prabhupada. So I was kind of equating the question Sadhana Prabhu was saying, that when you have that goal, and now we, have that goal of serving our individual spiritual masters and serving Srila Prabhupada's mission, so we can undergo some austerities without them actually feeling like austerities.
Thank you, Krishna. But I think that your point is an excellent one, and I have read Srila Prabhupada's Leelamrita, and I've heard about from Prabhupada disciples, who are my friends, about the self-sacrifices that were made, and they were happily made. So I think that the parallel that you're making there is very, very good. I don't know if you've all read Srila Prabhupada's Leelamrita, right? And what the Prabhupada disciples in the early days, how they had to very quickly change their lives, and happily so, and adopt very Spartan lifestyles, and just be absorbed in Srila Prabhupada and in his instructions. So I think it's a very good example. And then you were saying about today, yes, also, we can adopt that mood. And I do feel that, any devotee, any ISKCON devotee who is fully dedicating themselves with heart and mind, to serving and to pleasing their Guru and Srila Prabhupada, and what to speak of Krishna himself, yes, definitely they can actually become situated on that platform of transcendence. And I'm sure that we've all experienced it at times, whether it's here or anywhere else, when we are serving, just performing devotional service, one transcends, automatically one does transcend a lot of the bodily considerations that one otherwise would find very difficult to do. Have you all experienced that? Yeah, especially when your consciousness is, very focused, and when you're doing things in a very nice mood to please Krishna, then yes, it is that transcendence and that self sacrifice actually becomes quite easy. Thank you very much, Krishna. But yes, so we have gone over time now. Yes.
I'm just going to say some credit here. I just really appreciate your presentation, your class. Right at the beginning, I was like, you showed that kund, I don't remember the name of
that
it.
was Vrinda Kund.
And No, that was your screensaver. The next
Bindu Sarovara. Yeah, Bindu Sarovara.
Anyhow, you showed that kund, and it was a glorious kund with a castle. And I was thinking, where is that? And then on the side, you had the map where it was, and I thought that's lovely detail. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sadhana, for your appreciation, and thank you everyone for listening. Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Shamananda Prabhu ki jai.